Good evening, everybody. I'm Patty King, and I'm the Deputy Library Director at the Rockland Public Library. I want to thank you for coming to tonight's event. I am not typically the person standing here. Our wonderful programming librarian, M. Lewis, is unable to be here today, so I am pinch hitting. I was the programming librarian back before COVID days, back before multi-platform days. So I'm very happy that all of you folks are here, both you in the room and those that are on Zoom this evening. Before the talk starts tonight, I want to tell you about some upcoming events at the library. Next week, the event is upstairs in the beautiful reading room. It is a reading room concert at 6 o'clock with members of the Penobscot Bay Orchestra and friends. They are presenting small ensemble works. There will be a trio that will be playing a song for 2 violins and a viola. There's also a violin duet. There's going to be a cello and a banjo duet, playing a Bach convention and a clarinet duet as well. Throughout the month, there is an event going on upstairs where you can come to the library or you can work on it at home. There is a post-it note art show upstairs because we believe that everybody is an artist, and you can enter a piece of art on a 3x3 sticky note. It can be a drawing, a painting, or a collage, and it can be done at the library or at home. And all of this art will be up for the month of March. And then on March 31st, we're inviting people to come and take a different sticky note or take their own sticky note home and start their own sticky note art collection. One final event that I want to tell you about is Thursday, March 23rd at 6:30, both here in the community room and on Zoom. There will be a talk about raising guide dogs by Pat Weber. Pat Weber is from Guiding Eyes for the Blind, and she'll speak about what is involved with raising a future guide dog and some of the qualities of a potential guide dog in the talk. I'm going to turn things over to Jim in a minute, but first I'm going to do some housekeeping for the folks who are attending the talk on Zoom. We're going to ask that you stay muted throughout the talk. At the end of the talk, we'll invite you to unmute while we have a question and answer time, but you are welcome throughout the talk to ask questions in the chat of the Zoom. And I'm going to turn things over to Jim in one moment. We're so happy to have you here, Jim. Thank you very much for coming. I know that I personally have enjoyed seeing some of your beautiful photos on Facebook, and it's great to get out in the world and see things that other folks might not see, especially some of your drone photos and images. Jim Dugan is a commercial and fine art photographer, and he has an eclectic resume and a wide range of subject matter. But this evening, I believe you're going to focus a lot on Rockland. Is that correct?
Yep.
I'm going to turn things over to you, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi, guys. Thanks so much for coming. This is great. It's great to see so many people here. Yeah, tonight I'm going to talk mostly about Rockland and my pictures of Rockland, but there will be lots of other pictures of other things as well. It's a quick introduction to the pictures I take. We'll look at a few projects I've worked on, and along with some of the pictures that are just favorites of mine. So bear with me. It's a little higgledy-piggledy. I've lived in Rockland for 30 years, and I've been doing commercial photography for that whole time. I do a variety of other things. I do websites. I help a friend of mine run Breakwater Kayak in the South End. I work on the schooner Mary Day doing various things. I teach photography, but I also helped cook last year for a trip or two. I've been deckhand, little of everything. Just a couple things. Feel free to holler questions as I go along. If you wonder, is that such and such? Go ahead and say so. I don't have a problem being interrupted. But if it gets too disruptive, I might say, let's hold that for the end. So let's get started. Going to start with a little bit of commercial work. This is for the First, when they renovated their Rockland office. They had me in to take pictures. So this is the kind of shoot that takes a lot of organization, lighting, models. This was done first thing in the morning before the bank opened, and it was it was actually pretty involved shoot. Real estate. This happens to be out by Penn Bay Medical Center on a point. This is shot with a drone, and you can see from that curvature that this is an older drone. It's not, I'm not trying to prove that the earth is round. That's just a bad lens, but I have better ones now. Some food. This is for Cappy's in Camden, so you can tell that that's an older picture because Cappy's ain't around anymore. Don't know if anybody knows these people, but this is Oceanside High School, shot for the Maine Community Foundation. Barnsworth Art Museum, shot for their publicity. They hired me to take a bunch of pictures, and this one shows up regularly, among others. This is a hotel in Portland, the Portland Harbor Hotel. A decorator called me one day and said, "Can I buy some of your prints?" And I said, "Sure, what are you thinking about?" She said, "Well, I'm redecorating a 95-room hotel and I want your pictures in all the rooms." I said, "We can do that." So I went down for the grand reopening of the hotel. There's a bathroom and a sitting room. And now just a few pictures of Rockland, general Rockland pictures. This is a foggy night. The red streak is because it's a long exposure with taillights going down Main Street. You can't do Rockland without lobster. This is the Lobster Festival. Lobster rolls. And you can't do Rockland without Carrie Altiero. This is a party that he threw. And I got a few of these just because I love Stacy, my favorite bartender. And Carrie again. And this is our Christmas parade. One of the things that I always, tell people when I teach photography is that the word photography means drawing with light. This is a great example of what light is all about. There's a mixture of so many different light sources here. And the blur comes from a long exposure time. The Rockland lobster boat race. The sloop Bufflehead down by the schooner wharf, and we'll be seeing a lot more of Bufflehead tonight. The lime quarries. I love the lime quarries. I love Rockland's limestone history. And the first of many drone pictures you'll see tonight. This is the dinghy dock at the public landing, looking straight down. So one of the things that I really appreciate about my photography education is that I was taught very strongly to work in projects. So what I'm going to show you tonight is some things that I worked at for long periods of time, went back to and revisited over and over again. And the upshot of that is that the pictures get better as you do it. So this is the first of the projects I'm going to show you. And I call this Good Morning Rockland. I will very often be awakened by a full bladder at 4 a.m. and look out the window and see that the clouds look really good. And if they look good, I go for a walk. I very often come back and go back to sleep, but that half hour before sunrise and the half hour after sunrise can be really amazing here. So I take advantage of that. And I have favorite places I walk. Most the pictures you've seen so far are about 2 blocks away from my house. Schooner Wharf. It's a great place to go. again, painting with light. Figure out what the light's doing and use it. Rockland light, Owl's Head light, and some pretty great clouds. This is, I think, an old sardine fishing boat up on the rails in North End Shipyard. Golden light. That's one of the reasons to get up early, is the light is just golden. Yes, you have a question? I'm always doing something to the colors, but I have a slide. I'll actually explore that a little further later on. So yes, the answer is I always do a little bit to it, but I also tell people, if you think I've gone too far, let me know. I'm guilty as charged sometimes, and sometimes I tone it down too much. It's all over the map, but the pearl. DuPont, which we will always forever call FMC, I think. FMC, marine colloids. And this is summer. This is the public landing with the friendship sloop days. So those are friendship sloops all lined up. This was just a quiet morning. And a lobster boat went by and kicked up a wake. And then up popped a cormorant. And I just went click, click, click. And one of those clicks was in focus. I think it was Arnold Palmer who said, the more I practice, the luckier I get. Great blue herons. Whenever I go out early in the morning, I always see something amazing. Good clouds are worth their weight in gold. Panoramas. This is probably about 6 or 8 pictures put together, just married. And the same here. I like leading lines, lines that draw you into the picture. Ferry dock. Sunrise and boats. And a quiet morning at the apprentice shop. Moon over breakwater. And again, the apprentice shop. I think this is a Crotch Island Pinky. Anybody know? So remember what I said about going back and revisiting things. This is, I think this is C Street Place down on just off Tilson Avenue. Bixby Chocolate Company is right there. Every time I walk past, I just look for this scene to see what it's doing. I'm only showing you 2, but I've shot this probably 50 times. And again, the schooner dock, another place I just wander past every time, every day. Paint shed at O'Hara's. Remember what I said about leading lines. This is a perfect example. This is 1-point perspective where your eyes are just drawn right to the middle and the subject is right in the middle. And that was a morning thing where I was walking past and the shed was open and I took a picture. O'Hara's on Tilson Avenue. As you're headed toward the Coast Guard station. I have, that was the only time I'd seen that open. So. And this is another place that I keep revisiting. At the end of Tilson Avenue, if you turn left, just before you go in the Coast Guard station, there's a cement dock there, and it's the best place to see a sunrise here. So I think that's the buoy tender Thunder Bay. And is it Abbey Burgess? I thought it was Abbey Burgess, but you said it was Thunder Bay.
Oh, different boat.
Oh, is it? All right.
That's another day there.
All right. Thank you. They all look the same to me. So every time I go there for sunrise, it's different. I'm usually the only one there, but there have been times when I've been there and there have been 5 or 6 photographers there. So it's known. It's not my spot. But every time it's different and different mood, different vibe. And then that's the last one of this series of the Good Morning. And now I'm going to give a bit of a tangent. You asked about, did I do anything to the color? As I was putting together this program, I looked at this picture and thought, I probably edited that a little heavy-handedly. So I wanted to use this as a way to show you what goes into this. My camera shoots a file called RAW, which is basically completely unedited. It kind of looks dull and drab out of the camera. So I pretty much have to do something all the time to process that. And so I'm going to show you the RAW file. And I can go back just to give you an idea of the difference here. Yep.
That effect, is the original RAW different from what you're seeing in your naked eye? So much.
So the RAW file, I don't know exactly how to explain this, but every pixel in the RAW file has a lot of depth of data, so that the whites aren't really white in a RAW file. The blacks aren't really black. There's detail in all of that. And so that's why it looks kind of flat. And that gives me the ability to bring out detail where I want it, and then add contrast back and add saturation back. So, you know, I can change how light and dark and saturated pretty much everything in the picture is. So I start with that. And then I thought, well, I should show you sort of a more toned down, somewhere in between, which is probably more correct. So that's more like it for me. And there are a few differences here. I haven't done anything to brighten up the boat. So this one has the boat brightened up a lot. Maybe too much, but it also might have too much saturation, too much contrast. I don't know. Ansel Adams, some of you may remember Ansel Adams. He was a great photographer in the last century, so I didn't mean to go that far. Ansel Adams said, he was a concert pianist as well as a photographer, and he said that the negative is like writing a score, and the print is like doing a performance, performing the piece in concert. And I look at digital the same way. When I'm making that raw file, I'm writing the score. When I'm working on it on the computer, I'm doing the performance. And yeah, sometimes my performance is too much Beethoven and not enough Bach. But that's all right. And sometimes it's too bland. So we're all over the map. I'm going to go on to my next project, which I just call pilings. The morning project pretty much led to this one. They sort of blend together. But those pilings that hold floats in place during the summer In the winter, they're just sticks in the water, and I find them graphically useful, beautiful, sometimes haunting. And so I keep revisiting them. And they're one of those things that every time I go back to them, they're a little bit different. And again, sometimes black and white, sometimes color. And I honestly can't explain why I do it one way or the other. There are probably reasons, but I'm not articulate enough to spell them out. And this is off the apprentice shop dock, and foggy morning. And I was taking this picture, and I was thinking, you know, it's probably going to be better in about 20 minutes, half an hour, when the sun comes out and burns off some of that fog. So I went up and got a bagel and coffee and came back and just sat there watching for a while. And then a ferry went by and kicked up a wake. So this is the difference between a snapshot and a photograph for me, is the ability to say, I can make this better, coming back and trying again. And I probably have too many of these piling pictures, but that's all right. And my next project I call Timeless Maritime. And that's what I sold to that hotel. This picture actually was the one that the woman called me and said, can I get a print of that? And then can I get 300 of those prints? So I just started I've been taking pictures of schooners for years, and I started toning them in. I started digitally making them sort of sepia tone. I mostly don't desaturate them completely. If you look closely, there's still some color left in these, as well as the sepia tone. But the idea is, these are pictures that could well have been taken, or at least happened 100 years ago. That's the schooner Mary Day on race day. And that's the schooner Mary Day at anchor in Isle of Ho. The captain put me down on the yawl boat as we were coming into anchor and cast me off, and I ran around taking pictures for a few minutes. I call this mackerel sky, and I'm halfway up the rigging here, hanging on with one hand and shooting with the other. And that's the heritage. For this one, I'm in a kayak. They're actually assembling for the race in this picture. And I think these may be the heritage's anchors in the yard in Rockland. This is one of my favorite coves on Earth, but I'm not going to tell you where it is. So there. This one's Holbrook Island Preserve. And someone said to me, someone bought this picture and had it on their wall, and then emailed me and said, you know, for some reason, this picture reminds me of Andrew Wyeth's Christina's World. And so I digitally overlaid them, and the composition is almost the same. Christina is in the same position as that boat, and the horizon is in the same position in both pictures, almost exactly. I didn't try, but happy coincidence. I'm back in Rockland, assembling for the race. And race morning, all the schooners putting their sails up, chomping at the bit, just about to raise anchor and start the race. That's July. It's July 4th week is race week. And if you've never seen the race, it's well worth getting out there and doing it. Jen, where are they starting this year? I'm sorry, starting in Rockland? Yep, so they come into Rockland on Thursday, the Thursday after July 4th. And then Friday is race day. So I'm the breakwater is the best place to see them start. So they go in Rockland to Rockland. Yeah. So you can be there for the start at probably 10 o'clock in the morning-ish. And then the finish will be probably somewhere around 2:30 or 3-ish. Yep. Yeah, and so then they'll come into the town dock and raft up somehow. It'll be fun. And by the way, one of these schooners are incredible, and most local people don't go out on them. And it's a pity, because it would be so easy to hop on from here. And it's really an amazing experience. Anytime you can do it, just do it. So Mary Day starting the race. And Mary Day mid-race. And there's a little dot on the strong back there, and that's Sawyer at about 8 years old, I think. And Sawyer's now this tall and off working in the engine room on some research vessel. Victory chimes coming past Rockland Breakwater. The what is that? The Stephen Tabor. And Oscar's on the bow there, and Oscar's about 14 now, I think. The bow of Mary Day. Hanging out on the head rig is really, really loud. Just rushing water. It's one of the most thrilling places you can be. So this is, again, a situation where I'm hanging on with one hand and shooting with the other. Nope. I call this not furled yet. All these captains feel the need to furl the sails every day. And I'm like, why bother? They're pretty like that. But I think the captains don't like that it's not furled, but that's all right. Sailing downwind on the way to Isle of Ho, Brimstone Island on the horizon. Brimstone's one of my favorite places. It's sort of southeast of the tip of Vinyl Haven. Amazing. Actually, you'll see some of Brimstone in the video. Heritage passing Rockland Breakwater Light. Lobster Bake Cove. And no, I won't tell you where that one is either. We have some secrets. Mary Day Racing. Headsails, foresail. Nikki going aloft. The crews on these boats are amazing. They're usually, I see a few ex-crew here. They're usually fresh out of college. They work their way up starting as galley slaves and then eventually get on deck, maybe get their captain's license. But they're always great folks who work incredibly hard from 6 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. It's amazing. This is tacking the foretopsail. It doesn't usually take 4 people to do that, but it was race day and they had enough hands. So they were trying to get it done quickly. Lines are important to me in photography. Where the lines sort of point your eye, and the lines here are chaotic, but they're also really helpful because the lines are going right through their eyes, and their eyes are mostly looking upwards. It's a lot of fun for me to have a picture like that. Angelique about to T-bone heritage. It just looks that way. It didn't really happen, but race day, they're often sailing pretty close. Last year on race day, I was on the bow of Mary Day, and the boom of the rigging almost touched where I was. It was like I could have reached out and touched it, and I didn't want to. The Lewis R. French and the Angelique with Mount McGuntacook in the background. This is rigging season. This is you can see a lot of these lines are still bundled up on the other side of that sail. So this is in Camden Harbor, putting the sails on, bending the sails on. And another race day. Sailing wing on wing into Rockland. I think that's the J&E rigging from the bow of Mary Day. Bending on sails. Heritage and Mary Day. Mary Day's headsails. Lobster Bake Beach. And earning your lobster. Mary Day has 2 of these little pea pods, and they're just gorgeous boats. I love rowing them. Rowing around in the morning on a foggy morning. Or having the mate sit down to get his picture taken on one. This is the yawl boat. I'm driving the yawl boat. Most of these schooners do not have motors. So they have a little boat with a big tractor engine in it. And that's for pushing and towing, for taking people ashore to shore trips. But as we come into anchor, we very often cast off the yawl boat and it floats around. And sometimes I'm the one doing that. Yard time. North End Shipyard in Rockland is a great place to just wander by in the spring when all the boats are getting refitted, and they haul up on a marine railway, get their hulls cleaned and scraped and reputtied and repainted. And the crew during refit, including the dogs. Another lobster bake. I think that's the rigging headed out of Rockland. And another picture of gathering for the race. And sort of mixture, one morning after the race, I woke up and looked out the window, and I thought, oh, it's going to be a good sunrise. And I knew that the boats were moored at the south end of Rockland. So I put my kayak in. This is the morning I saw. Golden light. And back in the yard. So I'm going to show you one more project, which is the Rockland Breakwater. I walk the breakwater a lot. I've walked it in all weathers. I'm amazed by it every time I see it. It's just a great walk, but it's also great graphically. And Bufflehead on her several times daily trips is often in my pictures. So you'll see a lot of Bufflehead here. Daniel Bennett is the captain of Bufflehead and does a great job if you can get a chance to go on that boat. It's a lot of fun. He talks a mile a minute. and tells you all kinds of things about this town. There's Bufflehead again. Light on water just never gets old for me. Constantly changing. The Ketch Angelique passing Rockland Breakwater. So this picture, I had a print of it for sale at the Artisans Co-op in Lincolnville Beach. And I was out walking the breakwater one night and this guy stopped me and he said, "Hey, I see you taking pictures. Do you sell prints?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you have prints in that place in Lincolnville?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Because I saw one in that place." And I said, "What is that? I have to go there." And the lady said, "Oh, that's the Rockland Breakwater." And it was this picture. So I inspired somebody from, I think, Georgia to go walk the Rockland Breakwater. I love when the breakwater has water over it. It's one of the things I like about the breakwater in general is that it feels like you're getting out on the water without actually getting out on the water. But when there's water over the breakwater, you feel like you're walking on a beach with, 40 feet of water all around you. It's great. Intrepid souls. And there's just something sweet about people fishing on a summer evening. Quiet summer evening with ocean all around you. So this is Bufflehead again. And while I liked this picture when I took it, what bugged me about it was that's a sailboat with no wind in its sails and it's moving. So it's motoring. But remember what I keep saying, you just keep going back and trying again and trying again. And you get the same picture or similar picture, but with that flaw fixed. He's actually sailing in this one. And the drone. We'll see a bit more drone in a bit, but what I just love about the drone is the ability to put a camera wherever I want it. Not tied down by gravity. It's an amazing feeling to just be taking pictures a mile away. Seals from the breakwater. It's just amazing how many seals you can see out there. Again, one of the things I like about drones is the ability to just look straight down at things like this. So I tend to do the breakwater a lot. This is the breakwater underwater. This is the breakwater after that freeze that we had. That deep freeze was on a Saturday. This is Sunday morning. One of the downsides of this is I can't fly the drone with my gloves on. So I think I almost got frostbite that morning. Like, ugh. So I didn't walk out the breakwater that day. I walked out until it started to get icy. And then I sent the drone the rest of the way out. So I'm actually standing on stones that are not icy. I'm often a mile away from my drone. It can I've heard of people flying their drones 5 miles away, same model as mine. I'm not that brave. And this is Bufflehead again. And I wish Daniel was here because he'd probably tell this story better than I. But I have an app on my phone that tells me where the moon is going to rise, where the sun is going to rise, when, tells me everything I need to know. So I got in position for the moonrise, and I'm all set up with a long lens and a tripod. And Daniel comes past the lighthouse and does his usual route, which takes him directly towards me. So I pulled out my cell phone and I called him and I said, Daniel, turn left. And he said, who is this? I said, it's Jim Dugan. I'm taking pictures of you, turn left. And he said, oh, okay, I understand. And he turned left. And about 5 minutes later, he called me back and he said, do you have what you need? And I said, yes, I do. So. All right, that's it for pictures. And now I have just about 3 minutes of video for you. Let's see if it starts. There we go. So that's Lake Chickawaukee. This is last year when we had really good ice for ice sailing. And I have the drone video has no audio, which always bugs me, but all you would hear is so you're better off without it. But I always like to put good music to it, but the music that I had would be copyright infringement, so we're not doing it tonight. You just get to listen to me, but you get some idea of what I can do with the drone. Bufflehead again. Fishing trawler. Ladona, I believe. I'm having trouble seeing these from this angle. Yeah, Ladona and Victory Chimes, Merry Day at the White Islands. Oh, good, thanks. All right. Again, one of the things about drones is just the ability to put the camera wherever I want it. These are pictures I would never get without a drone. It was a hot day. It was really refreshing. This is Brimstone Island. And the breakwater underwater. Schooner Heritage. Catch Appledore. I mean, Angelique, sorry. There are a few times every summer where the windjammers do a sort of parade past the breakwater. One is for gathering for the race, and there's usually another one that is a parade of sail. Merry Day and the Louis R. French. Merry Day. Ain't she pretty? All right. Thank you. So that's about it, but I will take questions and I'm going to leave that up. You can, these are all of my contact things, so you can take a picture of that with your phone if you want. But basically it's jimdugan.com is the website, jim@jimdugan.com is the email, etc. Yep, Michael?
So Jim, you're taking drone footage. Are you getting all the videos and you're gonna still stop from that or?
And we, for the folks at home, this would help if I did this. For the folks at home who are watching it, and the audience is actually slightly larger at home, we're going to have you ask your questions on mic. So I will be happy to run to anyone who
Why
wants
don't
to
we
ask a
start with
question.
Michael?
So when you take the drone footage,
Yep.
are you capturing all video and then you're taking the still shots from that? Or
Yeah,
are
it's a great question. And the truth is that while I can just shoot video and then take stills from it, it's not nearly as good. I'm much better off choosing. If I want stills, I'm better off shooting stills. I get a much better picture. I have used stills from video. It's just a lesser, it's less pixels, but it's also less quality for whatever reason.
Can I ask the question? I have the mic.
Jeffrey.
A lot of us of a certain age, wanted when we were young to be a photographer, thinking that photography was the only part of that equation. Do you want to talk about all the other stuff that's involved in,
Oh, boy.
or maybe you don't?
Well, the funny thing is I don't feel very good at most of the rest of it. That's why I do a bunch of different things. I have yet to really figure out a way to make a living just as a photographer. And I make a living from a variety of things. And sometimes I don't really make a living. So yeah, it's a tough one. And the Maine Photo, well, I studied at the Maine Photo Workshops, which is now Maine Media College. And a friend of mine still sort of runs the place. And she said they now have a class called, I think, Professional Development, which is just that. It's how to make a living. And I was like, why didn't you do that when I was here? Yeah.
And do you want to slide Zoom up and see if there's any questions on Zoom? That'd be on the audio mixing. So if anybody in Zoom has questions, you can jump right in.
Oh, thanks. Okay, thank you. I know nothing about drones, so I'm just wondering, when you send this drone out to take photos, are you monitoring what it's
Yep.
doing and controlling?
Yep. So there are three parts to this. There's the drone, and then there's a controller, which has little joysticks on it, two little joysticks. And then you plug into that your phone so that the drone is sending me video of what it's seeing, and that's showing up on my phone, along with things like how fast it's going, what its position is, how much battery it has left. It's all showing up on my phone screen. So I'm looking at that screen and seeing what the drone is seeing, deciding whether I want to shoot video or a still. It's a lot of fun, but it's also kind of nerve-wracking. Lots of people, the first time they do it, I know I was terrified the first time I did it. I've crashed, I've crashed 2 drones. I now have one that I got in a tree once, but it's still intact. So it's not a cheap business.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. There's a lot of feeling about drones that they're an invasion of people's privacy. And I understand that concern, but they have a wide enough angle lens that in order to violate your privacy, they'd have to get pretty close. I've had people say, shoot it down. It's actually against federal law to shoot down an aircraft, whether it is manned or unmanned, and people have been prosecuted for shooting at drones. The only entity that really regulates drones is the Federal Aviation Authority. And I'm actually FAA licensed to commercially fly a drone. anyone who's using a drone for commercial reasons needs to get an FAA license for it. And the FAA is pretty strict about that. They say even if you're using it to check your roof for damage, that is something that has financial value and you need a license to do that. License costs $150 for 2 years. You have to go to Augusta and take a test. I had to study for it for about 2 weeks.
With the photograph you took with the Coast Guard boat on the right.
Yep.
And you showed it with the sort of original shot and then how you'd redone it.
Yep.
Do you, with the change of color, can you change? I'm just trying to figure out how you repaint it. Do you repaint it pixel by pixel, or do you say I want it more red or I
Yep.
want it more blue?
Yeah, it's a good question. I use, there's lots of different software to use. I use a thing called Lightroom, which is from Adobe. Adobe makes Photoshop. I use Lightroom and Photoshop, but most of what I do is in Lightroom. And Lightroom has little sliders. So I use those little sliders for the whole picture to start. And I'm not really dealing pixel by pixel. I'm dealing with the whole picture. First of all, do I want more contrast, less contrast, more saturation, less contrast, less brighter, darker overall? Do I want my blacks to be blacker, my whites to be whiter? And I can control a lot of these things. I can even control things like apparent sharpness. I can make things look softer and hazier, or I can make them look tack sharp. And then I can select different parts of the picture and do that to each of those parts. So and then I can add what are called presets. I have a preset that I made I call it dramatic sky. If I want to make a sky really dramatic, I can just apply that preset and it's done. Then I can tone that back a little bit if I want to, or tone it up. So it's a pretty amazing program, and you know, I could spend hours talking just about editing pictures, but
Do you want to
Yeah.
read those? We have some quick questions from.
There are some questions and comments in the Zoom chat. There's a question from Anne who asks, do you ever just use the pictures in their raw state? Some looked like something that I might have taken if I knew what I was doing. In other words, they looked like they were in their raw state.
see you, John. I don't think I ever use them in their raw state. The raw state for me looks too flat and dull and boring. What most cameras do, however, is they have their own way of processing the raw files. So your camera, your phone camera or a point and shoot camera, all of these basically shoot raw and then process it for you. So there's processing going on. The difference is that I want to make all the decisions myself. And some people are happy or blissfully unaware of the ability to take control of these things.
And we have a question from PK who asks about the drone camera and says, does the camera come with the drone, different cameras, lenses, ?
Yep. So most drones come with their own camera, which is the case for me. A drone camera, generally speaking, has to be pretty small and light. And it's on a gimbal, which is a little thing that keeps it straight so that it's not flopping all around and turning with the drone. There's one company that makes most of the drones, and it's called DJI, out of China. There are some concerns about a company like that being in China, and I think the federal government's starting to look at DJI a little more carefully, but mine is a DJI Air 2S camera, and it's got this little tiny camera that takes incredible pictures. It is possible to get a drone and slap another camera on it, but those are much more expensive much more expensive drones made for carrying larger payloads.
And we have one final question in the Zoom. There was kind of a discussion about two ships and talking about the Grace Bailey and the Mercantile and asking somebody said you did have a picture of one of those schooners in your show, but Anne is wondering why you don't have pictures of either of those schooners.
Steve will know better than I, but that picture going past Pulpit Rock, that's the Mercantile. And I don't know if I had the Grace Bailey in this show. I don't. Yeah, I don't. Oh. I have plenty of pictures of Grace Bailey. I don't know that there's a picture of Grace Bailey in this show. I have millions of pictures. It's quite possible I just neglected Grace Bailey, and I feel bad about that, but probably.
I know it's.
Yep. Race day is all about bragging rights.
Have you ever photographed in driving rain or snow? And does that work? With the
Yeah.
lines to the
Yeah, not so much with the drone, but yes, the drone actually has, this is just an aside, the drone has obstacle avoidance and snow. It sees snow as an obstacle and won't go anywhere. Says, nope, not going to do that. But my real camera is a Canon 5D Mark III, and that one is pretty impervious to rain. So I will go out in the rain with that. I'll, tuck it under my coat or something, but for most of the time, but I will shoot in rain or snow with that. Some cameras work fine in rain and snow and some do not. One of my earlier Canon cameras, I kept in a dry bag when I was kayaking, and the moisture that was in there shut it down. Just said, just enough moisture in that dry bag, it stopped working. So, but I always say pictures are more important than cameras. Which is probably what got me to crash 2 drones.
I was just wondering if you could repeat the camera you just said and other cameras you use,
Yep.
and then perhaps what you would recommend somebody who wanted to try a real camera rather than just a phone camera or
Yep.
point and shoot one.
Yep. So there are millions of possibilities for that. But my primary main camera is about 10 years old now, and it's still great. It's the Canon 5D Mark III. It's been replaced by many other Canons, and I think they're all probably better, but not by that much. There's also a trend toward a thing called mirrorless cameras. My camera has a mirror. It's a digital SLR, single lens reflex, where a mirror flips up out of the way every time you take a picture. Mirrorless cameras are sort of the new hotness. They don't have a mirror, and they're lighter, and a lot of people just swear by them. People who've used them never go back to DSLRs. I can't afford one yet. My drone is a DJI, David John Indigo, Air 2S. I also have a 360 camera. Haven't even touched on that. A 360 camera is a camera with 2 fisheye lenses that takes a picture of everything all around all at once. That's an Insta360 1X2, I think. And a lot of things that you see, sort of extreme sports are shot with 360 cameras these days, because you can have it on a helmet and it's taking pictures of everything all around you all at once. What else? I've got lots of things.
There's no such a thing as a real camera that has film anymore, right? It's coming from the walls. Yeah, there's no such a thing as a quote real camera that has film, is there?
There is actually. There are lots of people still shooting film, and I
Really?
have great
Wow.
respect for them. A friend of mine actually has a film darkroom in Rockland and
Wow.
teaches people how to use it, and still shoots a lot of film. There are still people shooting a lot of large format film, 4x5, 8x10 inch sheet film. So that's still a thing. It's there's a lot to be said for the quality that you can get from film, and not just higher quality, but a sort of flavor of quality. The grain in film is still something that some people search for.
Yeah.
That's fine. I shot a lot of film for years and I loved it, but I don't feel the need to go back to it. I might someday, but
I have a follow-up question. When you
Yep.
talked about the 360 camera, I'm just trying to imagine how you see that. So is
Yep.
it like you are in the middle? I mean, because you can't
yeah, it's like the
perceive
camera doesn't
everything
even exist.
360.
Yep. So there are various ways to view it and edit the pictures. Most people edit the pictures into a rectangle picture where they're basically choosing what to use out of that 360. And I would recommend that you look it up on YouTube and see what people are doing with it. There is a guy, and of course, I can't remember his name right now, but he's Australian, who does wonderful 360 work. And it's Ben Clayton or something like that. If chances are, if you Google, if you go to YouTube and Google 360 camera Ben, you'll find this guy and you'll get to see what's being done with it. It's mostly an ability to turn the camera in post-production wherever you want to go.
And if I'm not mistaken, your cover to your computer is a 365?
No, actually, that's so Jeffrey's trying to show you what a 360 picture looks like, but that's actually something different. This is what I call my kaleidoscope picture. I've got a lot of these. I think they're on my website, but I've redone my website and I may have missed them. Actually, I know there are some of these on my website. This is a Photoshop thing where I take a slice of a picture and duplicate it over and over again. So I don't know if you guys can see that well enough, but that's actually the bow of one of those Peapod rowboats, and a cove in Blue Hill Bay, and it's just copied and pasted around in a circle. Just I didn't invent the thing, but I did figure out how to automate it. Yeah. We are at about an hour here. Other questions? If you don't have other questions, you can always email me, jim@jimdugan.com, whenever you want.
One quick question.
Yep.
How many gigabytes of storage do you need?
I have 20 terabytes of data. I have 20 terabytes of space, only about 4 terabytes still empty. So I'm probably going to have to upgrade here pretty soon.
And the bulk of that is probably video.
No, the bulk of that is years of raw files. Yep, I haven't been shooting video enough. I mean, yes, video eats up space really quickly, but I've been shooting shooting stills much longer.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much.